Hello everybody, welcome to the Comic Gamer Movie Show. My name is Deshaun and today I have an action classic for you. Now I know I've been slacking off on the action classics lately, but one movie that I recently seen that's definitely one of my OG favorite action movies, the movie that launched Jason Statham as what we know as the action man he is today. Before Fast and Furious, before all his litany of other action movies he would be in, you know, he was in a little movie that came out in 2002 called The Transporter. Now, The Transporter was such a dope... First of all, the concept of The Transporter is a cool idea. Like, the idea that... Now, the vibe you get in the movie, they never say it in any of the movies, but the vibe you get is that... What's the word I'm looking for? That there is a group slash... mercenary kind of people who jobs are to be drivers and transport goods, either people or cargo. And like, they work with criminals of all kinds. They transport cargo, they transport, you know, whatever. No questions asked. One of my favorite things in this movie is the driving scenes, and it's in the first scene of the movie is him picking up some dudes who just got done robbing a bank, and I love that sequence because it's just like, because Jason Statham's character is just calm, cool, collected. He's, you know, I'm a professional. He dresses nicely. He has these. He drives very, very great, you know, very stylish cars. I'm a professional. This is what I do for a living. What I do for a living is I pick up criminals and move them from locations. I pick up things. I'm a transporter. I'm very expensive. And like the vibe of the transporter, it's a concept in the actual transporter itself in that world. I've often thought there's a lot of concepts that I always think, you know what? That's a concept that has limitless potential. That if you could have made the show Transporter with Jason Statham and had him just be in different situations, because he deals with different criminals all across the world. He travels from country to country where the money is. It's almost like they're Uber drivers for criminals. That's what a transporter is. Transporter is a hardcore Uber driver for criminals. It's really what they are. Like, literally, they get contacted to go pick something up, they pick it up, and they take it to where they're supposed to go. And they get paid. Sometimes it's a dangerous thing, sometimes it's hot, but they're usually ex-military like Jason Statham's character, Frank, is. Now, Frank is ex-British Special Forces, and the movie takes place in France. And, you know, he's doing his transporter thing. Like I say, I love the style of this movie. I love especially in 2002, there is this like pace to it, especially the car chase sequences, because Frank's a driver, and he really is a driver. That first car chase sequence is one of my all-time favorite car chase sequence because of how calm and cool and collected and slick he was about everything, and it's just like everything's just easy to him. He's dodging all these cops, and he's just kind of... I mean, it's not quite Baby Driver, because Baby Driver is probably my all-time favorite chase sequences, and in that movie. That movie had some amazing car chase sequences, but Jason Statham and this movie, Transporter movie, had some really fucking good car chase sequences. It was dope. It really was. And Frank's doing his job. He does his job. No muss, no fuss. But he does his job for these French criminals or whatever, these French assholes, and something happens where he gets in contact with this other gangster. This other gangster asks him to come pick up a package. No muss, no fuss, normal transporter day. Pick this package up, bring it to this location. Well, it turns out the package he picked up happened to be human cargo. He wasn't aware of that. He's hearing something, like he picked the package up and put it in his trunk. He's hearing something squirming in his trunk and shit. He's like, the fuck? Turns out it's a girl. And, you know, him being a human being, because Frank, while he can come off cold-blooded, which is his whole thing throughout his entire movie franchise, is while he tries to be cold-blooded and tries to be callous, he's really a good dude. Deep down, he's a really good dude. And he can't and he can't actually pull off the whole, and when push comes to shove, he couldn't literally just leave this girl in his trunk, to just not eat or drink or anything. So he fed her and whatnot. Its funny thing is, in the end of the day, he still ended up carrying out his job, but the number one rule of a transporter, it's the rule that's repeated throughout the course, is you don't ask questions, and you don't look in the bag. You don't open the bag, you don't look at it. You take the thing, the person, whatever, you don't ask questions, you take the person, the thing, and drop it off, and that's it. You're not supposed to get attached, you're not supposed to feel anything. And of course, Jason Statham's character made the mistake of actually feeling something. Now granted, he still ended up giving them the girl, so it's not like he didn't do that, but they thought maybe he had opened up the bag, so obviously they decided, we gotta kill him. And now he's involved in this gang that he's sorta kinda crossed. Like I said, sorta kinda, they just didn't want to take the risk, they blew up his car. And one of my all-time action sequences commences with him kicking down a door and fucking up all those people. I mean, the kicks, man. Jason Statham has some kicks. Like, that's the thing I noticed about him the most in his martial arts movies, is he has some hell of a kicks. His kicks have impact. Now granted, Jason Statham is a real black belt in real life. He really does know a lot of this shit in real life, so it's pretty clear. But he's an action, this movie to me turned him into an action star. And just his fighting sequences and like I say, everything about him in this movie, his calmness, his ferocity, there's this anger to him, but then there's this there's this chill. He's just such a cool character. His version of Frank, which really is his best character. Jason Statham's best character is Frank from the Transporter franchise. Some people have a bunch. I've often said that I think Vin Diesel's best character is Riddick from the Riddick franchise, because I often say because I often say everything good about Vin Diesel as an actor is in that character. And I think everything good about Jason Statham as an actor is in the Frank character in the Transporter franchise. Now the sequel to this would be pretty good. I like the sequel, not as much as the first one, obviously. And the third movie is less talked about that movie, the better. And the remake, once again, less talked about that, the better. But the Transporter, as a concept, I don't know. I think they're trying to make a show. But if I was someone, I would try to get Jason Statham on the phone and be like, hey, would you be considered, I don't know who owns the rights to the Transporter franchise, but I would try to talk about, hey, Jason, would you consider coming back and doing some more, going forward? Now, it's funny because at the end of this movie, at the end of all three movies, he ends up with the girl because he saves the girl, obviously. Turns out this whole thing was organized by her evil, the girl who's in his trunk, it was an Asian lady. Turns out this whole thing was organized by her evil, fucked up father who's trafficking people across borders and trafficking, people across borders like manual slaves and shit. It got crazy. It turns out that she came here to stop him from doing this, and that's how he got caught up. So in a way, too, the Transporter character is a lot like the Clint Eastwood anti-hero character, because if you've ever watched any of the Dollar Trilogy and the Clint Eastwood, classic, character, often than not, he's coming from something else, and he's coming into something that's happening. You know what I mean? It's like events that have nothing to do with him, but he gets in the middle of it, and now he's the big piece, and now it has a lot to do with him. And that's kind of what happens with the Transporter character, even in the sequels, is quite often it's like it has nothing to do with him. He is here doing a job, he is here looking for work, and he gets here, and all of a sudden he's in the middle of all this thing, but he does save the day in the end of the day. But yeah, like I say, there's some great action sequences in this movie, particularly the first half of this movie, the action sequences, the car chase, the house fight scene, there's a couple really great fight sequences. The only gripe I've ever had about particularly this one and the sequel is he never fights someone who could go toe-to-toe with him. You know what I mean? Like, he's just whooping everyone's ass, and his challenge is the number of asses he's whooping. But you never see him actually fight someone who can keep up with him. He has that thing that a lot of action heroes have going for him, where the bad guys aren't expecting him to be this good because, you know, he's a driver. You're not expecting him to know all these martial arts, even though he's like former British Special Forces. It's still like, man, I mean, I know you're a former British Special Forces, but the martial arts you're pulling, I don't know if they're teaching that over there. But yeah, he was whooping ass. And it's just like, it usually catches the bad guy off guard, which on one hand is always fun, because in our own minds, we always want to be that man of mystery, that man who came out of nowhere, who no one knew, and no one knew how good he was, and then now it's like, oh shit, we didn't know that. You know, the Taken situation. But sometimes it's like, sometimes it would like to see someone fight him head up. And it never happened in any of the movies. But I digress. The Transporter movie is a really fun action movie. Sure, it's not the most advanced of stories from a movie telling perspective. While it has some style, it's not the best directed. It's not the best shot. It's not the best acted. But it is a great action movie. It has great action. Frank is such a badass character. It has a badass leading character, which is really all that action movie really has to have at the end of the day. Is a badass lead character and great action and a story and a plot that's good enough that get us along. Just along. And plus it was the first time I ever seen someone have a license plate that flipped, which I thought was so clever. It's like, we're looking for a BMW, we got the license plate. Flip. So now they just look at the license plate on the BMW. There's no way he could have changed his license plate that quick. So obviously they just assume he just doesn't have it. But yeah, I dig this movie. I dig the concept of this movie. I wish someone would call Jason Statham up and be like, hey dude, let's do a show. Like, cause it can't be that expensive to do the show. Let's do a show, have you going around, the world and transporting on different missions and stuff. Like, it's just a cool idea. I think the Transporter is a cool idea. Maybe they should make it a video game or something. Cause it's very rare that you get these concepts that lend themselves to multiple different stories and different ideas of stories. And the Transporter, to me, is one of them. Anyways, thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show. Please like, subscribe. And have you ever seen 2002's Transporter? If you ever wanted to see Jason Statham at his most badass and his start, the movie that launched his career, really, that really got him out in the public eye, check out Transporter. Anyways, thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show again. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.